The stars had always whispered secrets, but we had never truly listened. For centuries, humanity gazed up at the night sky, comforted by constellations, by the familiar rhythms of the sun and moon, by the ordered beauty of the visible cosmos. Yet, all along, the truth had been lurking just beyond perception and visible, silent, but unimaginably powerful. We only ever saw 5%. The rest, the dark majority, was hiding in plain sight. In 2023, the European Space Agency launched Euclid, a mission so ambitious it bordered on audacity. A telescope designed not just to capture light, but to map the unseen architecture of the universe. Its goal was to create the most precise three-dimensional map ever constructed, not of stars, but of the voids and filaments formed by dark matter and shaped by dark energy. The world celebrated the launch. Scientists and journalists spoke of breakthroughs and Nobel Prizes, but beneath the surface, there were deeper motivations. 4 months prior, anomalous data from the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory hinted that something was changing. Subtle distortions in galactic movements, fluctuations in cosmic background, radiation, the fingerprints of something ... new. By mid-2025, Euclid's sensors had delivered more than just images. They sent anomalies, sections of the universe where light bent in impossible ways, where galaxies clustered around what appeared to be gravitational wells, but with no detectable mass at the center. And then, the data packets stopped following their expected patterns. Algorithms trained on known physics struggled to interpret the new influx. In a quiet lab beneath Geneva, astrophysicist Dr. Kira Knowles stared at her screen, eyes wide. She had been studying gravitational lensing, expecting to confirm long-held theories. Instead, she saw formations that twisted the very idea of web-like structures that shimmered when modeled in 3D places where distances folded like paper. Galaxies seemingly moving faster than light, not due to motion, but because the space between them was warping unnaturally. Then came the first image that changed everything. A cluster of galaxies arranged in a near-perfect spiral, not a natural spiral, but a fractal, repeating at increasing scales. A signature. No natural formation had ever displayed such symmetry across cosmic distances. And at the spiral's heart, absolute darkness. Not blackness, but the absence of light itself. Euclid's sensors refused to register anything at the core. It was as if the fabric of reality had been torn. A week later, the signal arrived. It wasn't a sound, not in the traditional sense. It was a modulation in quantum noise embedded in the static of space itself. A coded pulse, repeating every 42 seconds. Analysis revealed it matched the Fibonacci sequence. But in 4 dimensions, panic gripped the agency. The data was classified. Kira and her team were placed under lockdown, but it was already too late. The signal wasn't just being received by Euclid. Similar readings were picked up by instruments in Chile, Hawaii, and Antarctica. Radio telescopes began to buzz with unnatural harmony. Something out there had awakened and it was speaking. Across the globe, strange things began to happen. Northern lights appeared in equatorial skies. Birds migrated in spiral. Clocks in certain quantum laps ticked slightly out of sync with time itself. And then people began to dream. Vivid, impossible dreams of cities suspended in liquid void, of beings made of lattice and light, of languages that rewrote themselves. Thousands of individuals reported the same symbols, the same fractals that had appeared in the Euclid images. Something or someone was projecting thoughts directly into the minds of those attuned to the signal. Dr. Null experienced them too. But hers were different. She didn't just see the cities she walked through them. She didn't just witness the beings she spoke with them, or rather, felt their intentions. They weren't hostile, but they were urgent. A new transmission came through. Not from deep space, but from within our own solar system. The far side of the moon, long thought to be devoid of anything but dust and rock, reflected a beam of dark radiation. Euclid tracked it to a point near Jupiter, then lost it. What followed was chaos, a hidden structure, possibly billions of years old. revealed itself in ultraviolet skin. NASA confirmed the anomaly, but the message remained cryptic. According to decoded elements of the signal, the structure was not built. It had grown organically. Grown out of dark matter, stabilized by dark energy. It was alive. The world stood still. Governments convened in secret. Religions splintered and merged. New cults formed around the spiral signal, preaching that humanity had never been alone, but was simply too blind to see the truth. The Euclid Project, once a noble endeavor of science, was now the center of a cosmic revelation. But then came the rupture. Space itself tore open over the southern pole, not visibly, but gravitation. A localized rift or null zone where gravity ceased to behave. A place where equations failed. Satellite images showed a subtle distortion, like a smudge in reality. Euclid's last transmission was garbled, then silenced, and in its place, a new star appeared. One that emitted no light, but consumed it. Dr. No, now considered the leading voice on the phenomena, addressed the world. We were never meant to see the full universe. We evolved in darkness, protected by our ignorance. But now, the veil has lifted, and what lies beyond is not hostile, but it is vast. It is ancient, and it is watching. She explained what many already feared. The spiral formation was a message. Yes, but it was also a map. A warning! The dark matter webs were not just random gravitational playgrounds. They were boundaries, ecosystems, and we had just poked a hole through one. That night, the stars shifted. The constellations were ... different, slightly, imperceptibly, to most, but to scientists tracking their positions, it was undeniable. The structure of the universe had bent. Not metaphorically, literally. Something had responded. And then, on August 9th, 2025, a signal came through that was translated not by machines, but by human minds exposed to the dreams. One word: convergence. A convergence of dark and light, of matter and void, of observer and observed. The final frontier was never space, it was awareness. Consciousness had become the interface. The Euclid map had revealed a route not through stars, but through dimension, layers of reality folded atop each other. And now the path was opening. What came next was not invasion, not apocalypse, but transformation. Across the world, people with high exposure to the signal began to see beyond the visible. They described fields of motion where others saw stillness. They spoke in symbols. They understood time as a spiral, not a line. And Kiranal, she vanished. Her last journal entry simply read, "I am crossing over." The world waited. Years passed. The rifts stabilized. Satellites adapted. The universe, once silent, now hummed like a tuning fork. And slowly, humanity adapted. New sciences bloomed. Old philosophies returned with new meaning. We had touched the dark, and it had touched us back. The visible universe, just 5%. But that was never the point. The real story was in the dark, and it had only just begun.